As a teacher, you do not want to repeat the same patterns, the energy sucking behaviors, and burnout that I know you hit towards the end of autumn too. So, during this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to say no, but it not impact your career so you can start to prioritize yourself a little bit. Hey guys, I'm Chrissy and I am a teacher turned online fitness coach. And if you guys don't know me, I am the teacher that has turned into the space of online coaching so I can help you guys that are also teachers find a way to prioritize yourself. So I am the founder of the Teacher Fitness Academy. So this is all about teachers learning how to build a fitness into their lifestyle, build their time for them outside of the busy career, and to start to learn to prioritize themselves. If you guys want to learn a little bit more around what I do, then go and find me on Instagram at Coach Chrissy, where you can see loads of that. But if you're here today just to get some tips, then follow along. Make sure you subscribe because I post these weekly to give you a bit of an insight into what's going on. But let's dive into today's episode. So today I really wanted to talk to you about the power of saying no, which sounds absolutely crazy, but I know that you're going into 2026 with so many goals and you're hoping that this year it will look a little bit different. This year things will be a bit different in terms of the classroom. You want to sort of see some results, you want to see some changes, you want to learn to make you a priority. Now, the only way that we're going to do that is if you actually start to learn how to say no when you need to and how to actually balance yourself around that busy career. The thing is, the problem that you're having towards the end of this year is probably that you have not got enough time to do the things that you want to do, which is so normal as a teacher because life takes over, work takes over, the classroom takes over. I know that your workload is absolutely next to none, but you are not going to solve that problem by putting in a million more goals in place for yourself. The only way you're going to solve that problem is by looking at your time and seeing how you can get a little bit of time back from that. And that's what I want to go into today is how do we learn how to say no effectively in a way that's not going to impact us, impact our career, make us look like we're not wanting to do a good job for the children, because I know that's always at the back of our mind. How do we do it and how do we make sure that what we say and what we do fits in alignment with our goals for this year and gain that time back as well with what we really want to achieve? So let's dive in. I'm going to go over 5 tips that you really need to look at, 5 ways to break this down so you know exactly how you can say no effectively as a teacher going into this year. The thing I want you to really think about is your non-negotiable. So what are you going to put in place that are your things that you are going to make sure that you stick to week in, week out? The problem is you don't know how to say no to something at the moment because you don't know what is okay to say no to, what's not to say no to, what you feel comfortable saying no to, and what you should and shouldn't. And I think that's where the confusion comes in. You need to learn how to set boundaries. And once you know what your boundaries are, you can easily say, actually, this fits my boundaries, this doesn't fit my boundaries. And you can start to work out which things you can say yes to, which things you can say no to, and where they fit in. So this is where we need to start scheduling and being really, really strict with our timings and really, really understanding where we're going to take that time back. So you need to decide throughout your week, what is the night that you are going to leave early and take a bit of time back for you? It is not easy to leave work early, and I completely get that because it means you are often leaving work with a list of things to do, things still sort of muddling around at the back of your head, probably jobs that need doing for tomorrow. And it's not easy to say, actually, no, I'm going to leave now and I'm going to walk out the door and I'm going to go and get my workout in. But I can promise you, the only way you are going to get your energy back, show up better throughout that week, and actually feel like you are not being completely consumed by the job is by leaving early at least one night per week. You need to look at your week and you need to see which day feels most realistic, where you can leave that door between 4 and 4:30. And that might sound absolutely wild to you because you might be staying in the classroom till 6, 7 o'clock every single night. But I'm telling you now, number one, it's not sustainable. Number two, you are not going to be able to reach all these goals you want to reach in January unless you start taking action and taking some of that time back. And I know you're probably sitting there like, easy for you to say, Chrissy, like, you don't know how much work I've got to do. I do. Like, I get it. I completely get it. There has been so many times in teaching where I've got so much to do, but I know that I need to give myself that time, take myself away on that one day a week to work on myself, have a bit of downtime that evening. Otherwise, I'm not going to show up productively the next day in the classroom. I know that I get to a point where I'm at burnout and I cannot think straight, I cannot think productively, I cannot think creatively when I'm at that point. And if I just keep working and working and working through that and not give myself any time, how on earth am I meant to show up productively for those 6 lessons that I need to teach the next day? And I always, when I'm in this cycle, of knowing where I should put my time or where I should balance my time, I always like to think that where I always like to ask myself or tell myself, where am I better using my energy? Is it actually when I'm with the children in the classroom, or is it with this pile of marking? I'm writing essays that no one's ever going to read, or is it when I need to think on my feet in a lesson because maybe something's not quite going right, so I need to make tweaks, or is it to sit and mark all these stats papers at the end of the day? And I think we all know the answer to that, but it's so easy to get bogged down in this to-do list of things because we think these things make us a better teacher. But actually, I can promise you, leaving early just one day a week is not going to have an impact on that. And you need to decide what day you're going to choose that you leave, and you need to be strict with it. Just stick to it for the next 6 weeks. It's week one of your half term this week. For the next 6 weeks before the February half term, prove to yourself that you can just leave early one day a week. Whether it's a Monday, you like to go in Monday, you like to have a bit of a fresh start, get it out of the way, go and do your workout and have a chilled evening so Monday doesn't feel overwhelming. Fantastic. Whether it's a Tuesday because you'd like to get some bits done on a Monday, go and do your Tuesday where you leave a little bit early. Don't do it on the day where you've got a staff meeting because you've obviously got to be there that day. But you need to make sure that you are prioritizing yourself and choosing that day that you can leave a little bit earlier so that you're not sort of feeling like you're stuck or consumed in that work pattern. And it gives you it gives you those rules in your head as well. When someone comes up to you with a job to do, or when someone comes up to you with something to do, you are then not going, oh, okay, I can do it. Because in your head, you know you need to leave earlier that day and you're taking control of that and taking action of it on it as well. So that's where it needs to come in. So step number one is deciding exactly what day you are going to leave early and sticking to it, committing to it for a set amount of time. Give yourself until next half term and just see how it goes. See the impact of it. You are never going to know how these things go until you trial them. So it's so important that you take action on it, you try it, and you see if it works. If it doesn't work, that's fine. You can do something different next half term, but you can't be promising yourself that you're going to reach all of these goals if you don't give yourself time. The only way to do that is to take that time back. And the first step to taking that time back is to literally telling yourself that there's going to be one night a week, one evening a week where I allow myself to work on my goals. And yes, on the other days, you might be going a little bit later to the gym. It might look like it won't look as easier, but there needs to be one day where it feels easy. So you're getting yourself to the gym, you're enjoying it, you're getting your workout in, you're eating well, you're prepping your food, and you're really looking after yourself in that time. And I think that needs to be a priority, and you really need to set the tone with that. Step number two is kind of on a similar vein to that. Yes, you need to decide on a day that you're going to leave early, but you also need to decide on a day where you are going to allow yourself to stay a little bit later. So I usually like to pair this up with a rest day. I usually like to pair this up with some time where you are not expecting yourself to go to the gym. Maybe you're allowing yourself to sort of have a little bit more time dedicated to work. Like we know in teaching, there is going to be stuff that needs to be done, and you can't just ignore the stuff. This is not me saying like just show up in the classroom, do your job and go home. Like I am fully aware that you do need to do the things that you want to do, and you do need to take control of that, and you do need to obviously do the extra bits outside of the classroom as well. Like I am fully aware of that. You can't just ignore all of those things. So I do think alongside them being a day where you do leave early, there needs to be a day where you are happy to stay a little bit later. So that's your day where you're happy to stay a little bit later, get the work done, power through, and sort of get everything or as much as you can on your to-do list done and ticked off on that day. That could be on a Monday, for example, when you want to get it done at the start of the week. It might be on a Thursday, you know, you're towards the end of the week then. So maybe you feel a little bit better about sort of getting those jobs done. You know, Friday's around the corner, you know, Saturday's around the corner, whatever it might look like, you feel a little bit better in between with those ones. So you might choose towards the end of the week. It doesn't matter where it is, but just allow yourself that time to do it. But one thing I will say is make sure you're productive with that time. Don't spend that time at the end of the day getting a coffee in the staff room, chatting to your teacher bestie for an hour. If you're giving yourself that time to actually do work, then make sure that you are in your classroom, door shut, headphones in, whatever that might look like, to actually power through and do work until 6 o'clock or whatever time it is you're staying. There's no point staying late at work if you are just spending it talking, gossiping, moaning, whatever it might be. You've got to be productive in that time. You need to take as much time back as you can. And the only way that you can do that is by cutting things off that don't need doing and by making sure that you are super productive in the time that you have. As a teacher, you've not got that time to waste. So give yourself that dedicated day where you are happy to stay a little bit later and put it in place and actually actually get the stuff done during that time. I think once you've sort of started to establish the days that you can give a little bit more and the days that you're not going to give anymore, you can start to learn whereabouts you will be able to say no and where you'll feel happy and comfortable saying no. So on those days where you can stay a little bit later, you can see if you've got the time and the bandwidth to add some bits in, and then it shows that you are willing and able to go the extra mile on those days, and it shows that you're willing and able and you care about doing it. I think the next point I wanted to cover is really looking at managing which time you have outside of the classroom on those days that are in between. So we've said that there's one day you want to leave early, it's a non-negotiable, you're not going to do any work. There's a day where you're going to stay late and you're going to build work in, but there might be some days where there's a little bit of in between, and I wanted to have a conversation around how that might look for you. So one strategy that I found works really, really well for me was on those days that did feel a little bit in between, where I still wanted to get a gym session in, but I knew I still had to do a bit of work, was time blocking. And this allowed me to understand where I could say yes or no to things that people were throwing at me because I had allocated time. So for example, on a Monday, I might, yes, leave work at 4 o'clock, go to the gym. I would be home by 5:30, but then I would deliberately block in an hour of that time to go towards planning or to go towards marking, whatever that week might look like. But the point of that was, it wasn't just a time block where I was going to do work, it was a time block that was allocated to do a particular job. Now, this allows you to see if you can or you've got the bandwidth to do extra things that are getting thrown at you. Do not use that time doing all these bits and bobs, lots of bitty things. Go in with that time, focus on that one thing that you want to do it in that hour, get it done, tick it off, and then you will feel so much better for freeing up your to-do list a little bit. I feel like time blocking works so well for things like planning because you can tell yourself that you're going to be super productive for that time, and then you're going to shut the door and off you go. Planning can go on forever and ever and ever and a day, we know that. So I think having that explicit time to be able to do that, feeling really confident that you can go in and get those jobs done and ticked off in that time, will just leaving you feeling good. It will leave you feeling confident that these things are ticked off and they're ready to go. And it will also allow you to see whether you've got the bandwidth, like I said earlier, to say no to things if they do come in. So I think now that we know through those 3 points, when we are able to take more work on and when we're not, that allows us to understand in our head whether we can say no or not to a task. And I think the next part of it is learning how to actually say no. So when you know that you don't want to say yes to something and you know that you want to say no, how do we actually go about structuring that conversation with someone to say, actually, no, I don't want to do that this week. I want to do it this way, or I'm doing this. How can we do it to make it look productive? So my number one tip for this would be, obviously don't just stand there and be like, no, because it can come across, we know that it can be quite sensitive at times in teaching because people are quite stressed. We need to do it in a way that's effective and meaningful. So you might say to somebody, instead of saying no, you might say in the moment, like, absolutely, I'm more than happy to look into this. That's the best way to say it. I'm more than happy to look into this. Let me look at what I've got going on this week and I'll let you know at a good time to do that. I feel like reflecting, giving time for people to breathe, and then going back to people with, actually, I've looked at A, B, and C, and I don't think this is realistic because is a much better way of doing it than saying no to something. I think once you found when you start scheduling out your time, you will quite easily be able to fit a lot of the things in that you are asked to do and feel like you've got that balance as well. But when there is a certain task where you feel like it is too much, you need to learn to not be scared to go and approach somebody and say no. What I would do is give yourself that moment to digest it. Fully make sure that you can't fit it in. Maybe it might be next week that you fit it in or the week after that you fit it in, but make sure that you can't sort of fit it in somewhere else, maybe even if it's later down the line. And if it does feel like it's something that you absolutely can't do not be afraid or worried to go and ask for some help with that or do it a little bit differently. So what I would always do is in your head, just think about how can you be proactive and say, I can't do this, but I could do this instead. Or I can't do this because of this. So it's explaining why. Or I can't do this. Would you mind if I had a little bit of help with this? And I think if you go and you are able to explain and articulate your reason behind things and you do it in a really calm way, then it is much better doing it that way than just sort of splurting out, getting too stressed out, then it all coming out in one go. I think there should always be someone that you can go and feel able to talk to in the classroom. So that might be a leadership, it might be someone, it might be your head of year, it might be your head of department, head of phase, whatever that might be. There needs to be someone who is above you that you feel comfortable going to talk to in a safe space, like a non-judgmental and safe space. And I think once you take hold of that and you understand that you are able to do that, it's so much easier to say no to these things. So next time you are asked something, Definitely don't say yes straight away, because then you're going back on what you've said. Just say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let me have a look at my plans and my schedules and what's going on, and I can see where I can fit it in. Once you've done that, it shows that you're looking at things positively. You are genuinely giving it a chance to look into it and see if it is something that could work. And then you're going back with that information and you're feeding back that information to somebody, and you're reflecting on what's happened. And you're going with, actually, I can't do this because A, B, and C. Could we do it this way instead? I can't do this because of A, B, and C. I actually need a little bit of help and support with this. And you're being proactive and you're showing that you're considering what needs done. You're taking that on board and you're actually trying to implement some things around that as well. And you're trying to sort of suggest alternatives around it. It's never going to look great if you just go, no, I'm not doing that. That's not the way forward with teaching. It needs to be no, because, or no, can we do it this way, or no, can I have a little bit of help with this? And do not feel ashamed to do that. It is, I think people don't ask for help enough in teaching, and we just take more and more on. And it's usually because we don't know our capacity. And I think this is why point 1, 2, and 3 are so helpful for you learning where your capacity is and what your limits are. And then point 4 really allows you to understand how to implement that and how to say no eventually. I think the final point that I wanted to talk to through today is a little bit around kind of sharing your vision. I think there is, and there has been for the last few years, especially in schools where they are wanting to be progressive, a big movement with the wellbeing space and a big movement for teacher wellbeing. I think that this is something that should be spoke about more. It's something that you should share even as individuals, and something that should be actively promoted throughout the school. Wellbeing is huge. People are going off on stress, people are going off on sick, people are going off on leave because they can't cope with the burnout from the role. And I think that needs to be articulated a lot more within the classroom. And I think allowing and being more vocal about your vision fits perfectly into step 5, because if you are really wanting to learn to prioritize yourself this year, and you are really wanting to learn to have that balance and feel fit and healthy and have a life outside of the classroom, then absolutely, why are you not sharing this with everybody else in the classroom, everybody else around the school? And it doesn't mean you have to go screaming and shouting at the top of your lungs, but it could just be nice things that you're doing to sort of help promote it, like building up maybe in like a little, you could do like a step challenge, or you could do like a water challenge, or you could do like a walking challenge, or even just talking to your leaders about what your plans are and what you want to do this year around, and your goals around teaching can be so beneficial for this, because it'll really allow you to sort of assess and take hold of A, B, and C that's going on inside and outside the classroom. And I think it allows other people to see that actually you've got a life outside of teaching, and that's absolutely okay. You shouldn't feel stuck within just doing the role. It is fine for you to have that time for you and for you to look after yourself outside of the classroom too. And that absolutely needs to be okay. And I think the more we share that vision and the more we communicate that vision with other people, then the more people sort of understand when we go to them with reasons why we can or cannot do things. I hope that helped, guys. I really want this month to be around and all about you understanding how you can put yourself first, prioritize yourself, and learn to find that balance between health, fitness, yourself, what that looks like, and your goals around teaching. And I know you have so many goals in 2026. You're so ready to take action and take control. The only way you're going to do that is by making a change. So I'm hoping that this mini series in January, all about changing your mindset, taking action this year, will really help you to see those changes, and will really help you to see and find a path that allows you to balance yourself around teaching. Anyway, guys, please like this episode if you found it useful. Please subscribe if you found it useful. I really, really appreciate it. For lots of daily tips, you can find me over on Instagram at Coach Chrissy. And yeah, I hope you have a good one, and I will catch you on the next one.